Today, we are jumping into a brand new series called Under the Surface. And I actually want to start by telling you about a ship that was built in the 1900s that was considered unsinkable. Built by the latest, with the latest technology, and yet it was taken down by an iceberg on its maiden voyage. And I know all of you right now, you're thinking, oh man, he must be talking about the MS Hans Hedtoft. And you're right. This is it. Man, she was beauty. She was ready. It was 1959, and shipmaking had advanced significantly since that other tragedy, the one you all were thinking about, on the sea in 1912 when the Titanic sank in the North Atlantic. And the Hans Hedtoft was a state-of-the-art ship designed to carry cargo as well as passengers, and on January 7th, it set out from Denmark for the first time to sea with 95 passengers on board. It reached the first leg of its destination, arriving in Greenland in record time, and then stayed a few days, turned around to complete the journey on January 29th for the return trip home. The ship was solid. I mean, it was solid. Engineers had learned the lessons from the Titanic in that disaster. And the ship had a double bottom. It had 7 watertight compartments and an armored bow and stern. But on January 30th, about 35 miles south of the very most southern tip of Greenland, everything went wrong. At 1:56 p.m., a call went out that they had struck an iceberg. About an hour later, the next call went out that the engine room was now beginning to take on water. At 3:12 p.m., not even an hour and a half after that collision, the call went out the ship was sinking. And at 8:06 p.m., all communication with the Hans Hedtoft was lost. The only physical evidence that the Hans Hedtoft even ever existed was a lone life raft that showed up on the shores of Iceland 9 months later. That's it. And what took years to design and plan and build was sunk in 6 hours. And every life aboard that ship was lost. All because of something lurking under the surface. Maybe you already knew this, but roughly 90% of an iceberg is underwater. It's under the surface. When navigating a ship, what you see above water is not the most important thing to pay attention to. What's under the surface is what matters most if you want to avoid a disaster. The most important parts of you are not the things that everyone else can see. The most important parts of you are the things that are happening under the surface. It's the emotions that take control sometimes. It's the thoughts that spin and we obsess over. It's the motives that are a little bit off that no one else can see, but we kind of know. How many stories do you know of someone's life that got shipwrecked? Someone's marriage shipwrecked. Someone's career shipwrecked. Family, someone's integrity wrecked because of something that was hidden. Something going on under the surface that no one else even knew about, but then it all comes spilling out into the open, but by that point, the wreck had already happened. And listen, over these next few weeks, we're going to look at a few specific things that live under the surface that can shipwreck us if left unattended. Anger can wreck us if left unattended. Our guilt can shipwreck us. Our temptations that we wrestle with under the surface can shipwreck us. And we're going to discover that it doesn't have to. It doesn't have to, guys. There is a way forward that can lead to freedom and life and healing. But today, we're going to get into that these next few weeks, but today I actually just want to start by framing out the bigger picture of what is at stake if we do not pay attention to the things going on under the surface of our lives. Jesus was absolutely adamant. He was adamant about driving home the fundamental point that the most important parts of you are the things happening under the surface. He talked about this again and again and again, over and over and over again. He talked about how all the things happening inside of us are so important, the things that other people cannot see and what it does in us. Listen to how he talked about it in Luke chapter 6. He says, a good person, this is Jesus' words, he said, a good person produces good things from the treasury of a good what? Heart. Now you're going to see a theme here, all right? An evil person produces evil things from the treasury of an evil heart. What you say flows from what is in your heart. Jesus is saying here, I'll just kind of summarize it real quick. He's saying that our actions, you know what I mean, our words, our behaviors, those are the things that everyone else can see. That's above the surface. That's the tip of the iceberg. But those all come from a source under the surface. In fact, the word that Jesus used to describe this reality, it's a word and concept again and again and again that's used in the scriptures. He referred to it as our heart. You know, the heart in the ancient world, when they would talk about the heart, it was a way of describing that mission control center inside of us. The driving force of our actions and our behaviors. I've told some of you before that my very first car when I was growing up, 16, it was a beater. I mean, beater. Everyone should have a beater as their first car. Man, I had one, right? It was a 1983 Buick Regal. I loved it. When it ran, I loved it. I'll tell you about it real quick. The passenger side window was permanently stuck down, wouldn't roll up. That was awesome in winter. It had tobacco stains going down the driver's side, the entire car. Some of you are like, what? Yeah, 17, stupid, chewed tobacco, spit it out the car, right? Brown streaks, right? Everyone knew. There's Jason, what? Tobacco streak, right? Stop judging me. You look at judgy people. Anyways, you had to go and you had to to open the trunk, you had to get a screwdriver, wedge it this particular way, then get a brick, hit the screwdriver. That's the only way the trunk would open, all right? But what you would have noticed more than anything, if you would have ridden with me in that car, is that once that car hit 63 miles per hour, not 61, not 62, 63, that thing would start violently shaking. Never failed. The engine had a couple 100,000 miles on it. It was on its last leg. It was incredibly unreliable. Now, I don't know a ton about cars. I'm the first to admit that. I don't know a ton about cars. But even I know how stupid it would have sounded if someone would have said, Jace, come here. You know what that car needs? You know what it really needs most? What? A new paint job. No. That car needs gutted. That car needs condemned, right? That car needs a new engine. You can paint the outside, and that car will still shake. Are we tracking? And it may not even start because the engine needs fixed. Jesus is saying, man, you don't need a new paint job. You don't need a new paint job. You need a new engine in your life. In fact, this is how he says it on another occasion. This is in Matthew 15. Matthew records these words. He says, but the words, Jesus again speaking here, said, the words you speak come from there it is, heart. That's what defiles you. Now he takes it further. He says, for from the heart come evil thoughts, murder, adultery, sexual immorality, theft, lying, slander. These are what defile you. Listen, if you've ever been frustrated that you cannot beat a particular habit that you want to move past, you ever felt that? You're like, man, if I just stop doing it, and you make a commitment, you're like, I'm going to stop doing this, and then a week later you're doing it again? You ever been there? I have. Or you ever said, man, I'm never going to do that again, and then you are doing it again, or I'm going to start doing this, and then you don't ever end up doing it? If you've ever been discouraged that you won't do something again only to do it again, Jesus is actually making sense of why that happens in our life. Because he's making a pretty fundamental point here. We tend to focus on the behaviors we want changed, and he is pushing us to go further than that. These behaviors all originate from somewhere under the surface, or what Jesus calls the heart. What we need most is not new behavior. We need new hearts. We need new hearts. We need Jesus to heal the things under the surface. Guys, we say this all the time. I'm just going to pause. I'm going to say it again. This is why religion is so empty. This is why religion will fail you. This is why religion is not the answer. Religion is all about behavior. Religion is about the outside. Religion is about the top of the iceberg. Just do more good things. Do less bad things. Just get your act together. That's religion. And it is an impossible burden. It's like painting a car that has a bad engine. It won't work. It is our hearts that need healed. And Jesus is the only one strong enough and capable enough to heal and transform our hearts. And we need healing. You know why? We need healing because of what lurks under the surface in our hearts. These are the kinds of things that lurk under the surface in all of our lives. Wounds and hurts live under the surface, don't they? fears and insecurity lives under the surface. Temptations and sin lives under the surface. And we spend so much time in our life trying to hide these things, don't we? And it will not lead to life. You cannot heal. Guys, lean in and listen. If you've checked out, check back in for 1 second. You got to hear this. You cannot heal while hiding. You can't do it. Which is why 1,000 years before Jesus said what he said and gave us a vision for our lives, and Solomon, considered one of the wisest men to ever live, he wrote this in the book of Proverbs. He said, guard your what? Your heart. Guard your heart above everything else, above all else, for it determines the course of your life. Guard it. Pay attention to it. The things going on under the surface, because the quality and direction of your life will be determined by how willing you are to pay attention to the things going on under the surface. I played basketball. I told you a minute ago I played sports, growing up. Basketball was the sport I love the most. Lived in North Carolina for 7 years, lived in Kentucky for 8 years or whatever, and so these are the hotbeds of basketball. Grew up playing it, loved it. Played a little bit of small college ball and just absolutely loved it. I wasn't the best offensively, I'll freely admit that, but man, if there was a defensive assignment, I was getting it, and I'm gonna lock you down. I'm gonna lock you down. If I have to hurt you, I'll do it to lock you down. All right? Didn't matter size advantage, didn't matter skill set advantage. I made it my mission. I could lock any single person down. Actually, a friend of mine was here last weekend, and he's taking a shot in the NBA right now. Probably couldn't lock him down, but I could lock all you down, all right? And the key to guarding the other player was actually really, really simple. If I'm gonna guard the other player, I'm gonna get in a defensive position. I'm 46 now. I cannot do it like I used to do it. But I'm gonna drop my hips. I'm gonna make sure that I'm at arm's length. I'm always at arm's length away from this person. I'm gonna watch their hips, their torso, their hips, and watch it, because you can head fake me. You can move your feet in different directions. But look, those hips don't lie. Shakira was right. I'm gonna watch it right here, right? When you move here, I'm gonna move here with you. I'm gonna slide. You come back, I'm gonna drop my hips. I'm gonna drop my leg. I'm gonna slide back with you. So everything I do, I'm attached to you. I'm paying careful attention to where you're going. I'm never, ever distant from you. I'm gonna pay attention to everything that player did. Do you understand what Solomon is trying to stress here when he says, guard your heart? There's only one person who can be attentive to your heart like that, and it's you. No one else can do that for you. There's only one person that can be attentive to what's going on under the surface, and it's you. Look, we all know stories of someone who was found out, just happening in this week. Tuned into sports and all that, another person, just kind of something found out, right? They had a secret. They had something going on under the surface, and then suddenly it's found out that they've been living a double life. Happens all the time, right? And here's what we tend to think. Whenever we read stories about that, or we hear something, about friends, whatever, and we see that in somebody else, you know what we tend to think? I tend to think this. Maybe you're like me, maybe you're not, I don't know. How could they live with themselves? How could they live with themselves? How could they carry on for so long with that going on under the surface? How did they live with themselves? Now, here's the assumption we're making whenever we think that. You know what the assumption is? I could never live with myself. My conscience, my integrity wouldn't allow me to live with myself if I had that going on under the surface and no one else knew. That's the assumption we're making, right? But the reality is, what you really mean whenever you say that in those moments is that you could not live with your current self. But if left unattended, unguarded, if neglected, your current self may not be your future self. If your heart is left unattended, your future self actually could become someone you wouldn't even recognize today. Happens all the time. And the reason we think a shipwreck like those people went through could never happen to us is the same reason the Hans Hedtoff set out to sea so confidently into those dangerous and icy waters. It's because we convince ourselves it cannot happen to me. And what Solomon is saying and what Jesus is begging us to consider in his infinite wisdom is that the best way to keep the shipwreck from happening to you is to stop assuming it never could. Because the second we think it couldn't, we will stop guarding our heart. We're not going to go there. We're going to guard our hearts. That's the kind of men we're going to be. That's the kind of women we're going to be. We're going to guard our hearts because we don't want to be people who hide. We want to be people who experience wholeness and healing, and we cannot heal while hiding. We're going to guard our hearts because we know that the most important parts of us are the things that live under the surface. So how do you do that? How do we do that? How do we do that with the things going on under the surface in our hearts, the things that are there? Let me just get real practical for the remaining time that we have together. Get real practical. I want to tell you 3 ways to guard your heart, 3 ways that we guard our heart. The first is this. We got to notice and name it. You want to guard your heart, you got to notice and name it. What is it? The things going on under the surface. That's it. The things going on. Some of us are here and we are carrying around wounds and hurts, fears and insecurities, temptations and sin that we refuse to address. We won't address it. We won't even acknowledge it. We just pretend it's not there. You know, man, we're experts, aren't we, at posturing and pretending? It's like we didn't have to take a class for that. We just know how to do it. I heard about someone a while ago who, as a kid, was shamed and literally punished by their dad if they showed even the slightest hint of sadness or anger or any emotion. You don't think you'll carry that with you? And they learn real quick how to hide those parts of their heart. So we learn to posture and pretend. We present ourselves to be better than we are. We play the part. All the while, we got wounds and hurts festering. We got fears and insecurities weighing on us. And we got temptations and sins wrecking us. But we just pretend and we posture and we keep it under the surface, push it down, pretend it's not there. And guys, you want to know what setting has encouraged people to fake it more than any other? You want to take a guess? Are you going to make me say it? Church. Church. There used to be a phrase I heard growing up. I don't know if you ever heard this phrase. It was this: put on your Sunday best. I used to hear that all the time growing up. Put on your Sunday best. Do you know what that's it's very subtle, but do you know what that's communicating? Church is where we play the part. Church is where we play the part. You know what I mean? Dress the part, act the part. So you walk around. I've been to churches like that, right? You walk around, it's like, how you doing? How you doing? Fine, great, good. Fine, great, good. It's like, okay, are we robots here? It's like we got like the AI response. You know what I mean? Like, fine, great, good. And the reality is their heart is broken and beaten down and discouraged, but everybody's fine, great, good. Faking it, posturing, pretending. You know, we've always fought to be a church here at LCBC where everyone here can be real about the things that are going on under the surface. I'm telling you now, if you want a church of perfect, put-together people, we're not the church for you. Just not. But if you want to be a part of a community of people who are willing to name and be honest about the things going on under the surface, why? So we can experience the healing work of God's grace. I'm telling you, you'll be right at home here. There's just too much at stake. There's too much at stake for us to waste our time being a church where everyone comes in and just fakes their way through life. I don't got time for that. You don't either. And for some of you today, man, you're exhausted. You're tired. You're exhausted from posturing and pretending your way through life. And Jesus invites you to experience the freedom of living honest, to notice and name the things going on the surface, and be ruthlessly honest about them. I want to ask you, are there any wounds and hurts that you just need to name today? Are there any fears and insecurities that it's time to get honest about? Is there any temptations and sin going on you've been hiding? Guard your heart. Pay attention to it first by naming it. Second thing, you want to guard your heart, you got to notice and name it, but you also got to share it with others. It what? The things under the surface. Share it with others. Guys, you were not created to walk through life alone. You were not designed for that. You were not created to go through this life, and isolation is killing us. It is killing us. We know more people than we've ever known before, but we are as isolated as ever. And guarding your heart is a task too heavy, far too heavy to carry alone. Can't do it alone. I told you that we're a church that'll get real about some things and get honest, so I'm about to. There's your warning. Can I do that? Can I do that? All right. I'm going to anyways. I got the microphone, so I guess it doesn't matter. The first few years that Jenny and I were married, tough. Tough. Early on in marriage, we struggled with sexual intimacy. And it was me. It wasn't so much the sex part, it was the intimacy part. Because I had some wounds and some hurts under the surface that I had never named and certainly had not shared with others. Fears about intimacy and vulnerability. And by the way, some men right now, you understand what I'm talking about. You never connected to the two, the idea of intimacy and sexuality, right? And it was simmering, all these things I had under the surface because I refused to address what was under the surface. And it left my new wife, Jenny, leaving her rejected, feeling rejected. Until it reached a boiling point one night with Jenny in our little 2-bedroom home over on Fulton Street, and we sat on this incredibly ugly, I mean horrendously ugly burgundy carpet. Too poor to change it at that point, right? So we just sat on this nasty burgundy carpet. I remember it like it was yesterday, and I finally stopped hiding. And I started getting honest about the fears and insecurities I felt and the wounds and hurts that I had been carrying around. And you know what happened? Healing began that night. Because some of the things that were under the surface came out. And see, I know, if all that stuff that I was feeling under the surface related to sexual intimacy, if all that was left unguarded, unattended, I know the shipwreck that I would have been walking into, that I could have walked into, because we all know where we can go and we can get the thrill of sex without any of the intimacy. That's a website away. That's a swipe away. And left unattended, that would have been the easiest road, just using women as if they were a cheap meal to be consumed, then discarded. That's what you're doing. But I'm so grateful for the grace of God and the people in my life that I could start to be honest with, that God could start the healing, to start to heal the things that I was hiding. You cannot heal while hiding. You need to put yourself around people who you can be ruthlessly honest with. People who love Jesus and will still stand with you no matter what you bring out and remind you of God's grace. I want to say this. If you attend here on weekends, if this is all you do, I'm grateful for that. I love that. But if this is all you do, you just attend here on the weekends, I'm just telling you, because someone needs to, you're missing out on the fullness of what God could do in your life through Christ-centered relationships here. I hope it starts here, and I think there's value, and obviously there's value being here, but I just hope it doesn't end here, because if this is all your experience with our church, I'm telling you, you're missing out on the possibilities of what God could do, the healing work He could do in your life that comes through Christ-centered relationships. This is why we talk about groups here all the time. It's not because we think you're bored and you need more stuff to do. It's because we know that you cannot live an isolated life and thrive. We talk about all the time, get into a group, get to know some people here. We have divorce care. If you've walked through divorce, man, we got divorce care. We want to get you around people. Celebrate recovery. If you've walked through a hurt, habit, hang up that's got you stuck, get into Celebrate Recovery. Grief share. If you've lost someone, Starting Point. If you're like, hey, under the surface, I've got some doubts, get into Starting Point. Men, we've got hundreds of men now who are meeting different locations across state, meeting on Saturday mornings, working out together, then getting around fire pits and just sharing life together through Men's Alliance. Why? Because we are fighting a war against isolation as men. We're not going there. We're not going there. We're going to heal. We're going to be whole. And no, listen, man, when you get into a group here, you don't go into those, you don't got to share everything out of the gate. That's not what I'm talking about. But what you are doing is you're making a choice to guard your heart by placing yourself around people who will be safe places when you need it. You can't heal while hiding. You have to notice and name the things that are under the surface. You got to share them with others who will point you to the healing work of Jesus. And lastly, but most importantly, you want to guard your heart, you got to bring it to God. What? The things under the surface. Bring it to God. Bring those things under the surface before God. We have convinced ourselves, listen, some of you are here today and you've convinced yourself that God wants you to pull yourself together before coming to Him. No. The truth is that Jesus invites you to come to Him and fall apart. He is safe and He is good. Stop trying to fix your life before deciding that now you'll get serious about following Jesus. Come to Him broken. What if we stop seeing our wounds and our hurts and our fears and insecurities as the things keeping us from God, but instead saw them as the pathway to connect with God? What if we stop seeing our temptations and our sin as the barrier to coming to God, but instead as the very thing that God invites us to come honestly to Him with so He can heal and forgive and restore? We can tell Him all of it, guys. We can tell Him all of it. Every single thing going on down under the surface. And listen to the promise that God makes to His people. Listen to this. This is such good news. Ezekiel 36:26. I will give, this is God speaking to His people, I will give you a new, there it is, heart. And I'll put a new spirit in you. And I will take out your stony, your stubborn heart, and I will give you a tender, responsive heart. Some of you are here today, and you feel like it's too late. The shipwreck's already happened in your life. But I need you to hear this. That is a promise that has no shelf life and no conditions to it. It's never too late. There's no life that is sunk so deep that God's loving grace revealed through Jesus Christ cannot restore. He is so good. He is so gracious to us. He is so loving to us. The things under the surface do not have to wreck you. We can heal from the wounds and hurts. We can live bravely in the face of fears and insecurities, and we can have victory over temptations and sin through Jesus by bringing them to the surface and getting honest about them. Because you can't heal while you're hiding.